Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Backpacking for Beginners, or the Beginners Backpacking Series, or Begin. You know what? You guys know where you're. So today I wanted to cover another part of the big three, and that is your pack. So we're going to talk about backpacks in this video, what you should be looking for, how to size your backpack, and how to pick the right one for you. All right, the first thing to talk about here is backpack sizing. Now, not all backpacks are going to be sized the same. In fact, some backpacks that you find online on retailers like Amazon or Walmart may not even have a size on them. When you get into the more higher end reputable companies like Gossamer Gear, Hyperlight Mountain Gear, Six Moons Designs, Osprey, those bags are going to be sized. And they're going to have a size for your torso, meaning the size of your torso, and they're also going to have a waist circumference if they have a hip belt, which most of them will have hip belts. Once you decide where you're going to be aiming as far as backpack size, and I mean capacity size, and I've suggested before, between 50 and 60 liters is a good place to start when you're a beginner. Sometimes you can go smaller than that, and sometimes you need just a little bit more. This is all going to really center around the gear that you plan to take, which is why I say the backpack should be the last thing you purchase. Now, when it comes to sizing, there's even backpacks like this one, which is my son's backpack. Well, it was my son's backpack. This is an Osprey Ace 50-liter backpack. And if you look very closely at this backpack, it actually has a sizing adjustment on the torso. So I can make this torso size longer or shorter on this backpack, which is something that you can find in more youth-style backpacks. But the reason I keep this backpack is my son has outgrown it. This actually works really good for smaller people that may not have gear that want to go with us, because I can size this thing on the fly to fit somebody pretty well. So this is not something I see all that often, but it is something that does exist. And like I said, Osprey offers it in this Ace backpack, which I don't think they make this model anymore, but I do think they make one like it. Now, moving along to some other backpacks, like my Gossamer Gear here, it's going to be sized, like I said, in torso and in waist circumference. Now, the next thing you're going to want to know is, how do I size my torso? Well, that's very simple. So, torso sizing. We're just going to take a measuring tape and a friend, and we're going to measure basically from our belly button, but on our back, up to this little bump that you can feel between your shoulders or in the middle of your shoulders. I like to tell people, if you go from your waist to about the middle of your shoulders, you're going to get a pretty good idea, because most torso sizings are going to go, in a fluctuation. What I'm saying is, it might be suited for torsos up to 18 inches, might be suited for torsos up to 17 inches. So you're going to have some range. So if you get close to that number, have a friend measure your torso and figure out just about where that works. Some backpack companies are also going to offer you sizing by height, which can be very helpful too. They may suggest that a backpack will work for anyone between the size of 5'9" to 6 foot tall. For reference, I am 6 foot tall. My torso size is usually 18.5 or 19 inches. So I usually get a large torso backpack. The next thing is going to be your waist circumference. And that's for these hip belts that are going to go around your waist. Now, you're going to size that like a pair of pants, maybe a little bit bigger. I usually like to go bigger rather than smaller, but I have yet to buy a backpack that doesn't fall within that range that is sized based on my pant size. So that's a pretty good indicator that it's going to work for most people. And those are the two main sizes you're going to want to pay attention to very closely when you're purchasing a new backpack. So when we're going along and we're deciding, come off that wall, and we're deciding what we're going to get, this is my Gossamer Gear G42. This is a 42-liter backpack. It's an ultralight backpack. As you can see, it's got this nice foam insert in here that doubles as a seat. Again, not a gear review. I'm not trying to do a gear review, but I love this backpack. It's been great. This backpack is sized as a large waist and a large torso. So it fits me very well. And it is a 42-liter backpack. I tend to not need as much space as a typical backpacker that ground sleeps because I don't have a tent, I don't have a sleeping pad, I don't have all that stuff. I have a hammock and a set of quilts. That's my shelter, and a tarp. And the tarp usually stays on this outside pocket for me. So you can get by with a lot of different things. However, you really want to be thinking about future-proofing your backpack and thinking about, are we going to be taking any deep winter trips? Is there going to be a situation where I'm going to have to load extra food, extra gear, or extra water into my pack? So it's usually a good idea to shoot a little bit above what you think you need when you're starting out, because you have a lot to learn when it comes to how much loadout you think you're going to take and how much you actually need. The next thing I want to do is give you just a little bit of a guide on how I load my backpack. Maybe this will help you kind of predict what kind of backpack you're going to need, and also give you a starting point when you're ready to take out on your first trip. So I've got my backpack here, and I'm going to open it up. And this backpack is my favorite kind of design, which is one big open body. So I start out I would be putting, usually I put like a trash compactor bag in my backpack first, and that's just for an additional layer of waterproofing. Now, when I'm done with that, the next thing that I'm going to put in this pack are my quilts. And I don't put them in a compression sack or anything. I'm just going to stuff these guys into the bottom of my pack and make them really take up that space at the very bottom of the pack. And the reason I'm doing that is because these are the last things I'm generally going to take out of my pack when I stop for the day. So I'm going to throw those in there. Then I'm going to throw my pillow in. Remember my pillow? Yeah, it's my favorite thing. So I'm going to throw my pillow in on top of that. So basically my whole bed is in this bag, okay? And it's in there at the very bottom, and it's got an additional layer of waterproofing around it, okay? So I've got my quilts in there, I've got my pillow in there, I've got everything I need. What I just grabbed a tent for argument's sake. The next thing I'm gonna put in is my shelter. So this would be my hammock, but I'm gonna throw a tent in there just for the sake of doing the video here. So I get my tent in there on top of that, because obviously my tent is gonna have to come out before my sleep system. I want my shelter out before I start dragging stuff out that I don't want to get dirty or wet. So that tent's gonna kind of, in my case, my hammock, kind of occupies the center part of the backpack when I'm loading it, because I know it's only gonna come out once a day and go right back in with my sleep system at the end of the day. Okay. Then I'm gonna put my clothes, and I don't have anything to mock that up, but I've got my Hilltops food bag here that I filled up with a pillow so you guys can kind of get an idea. This is gonna go on the top of my food, or I'm sorry, it's gonna go on top of my clothes here at the very top of the bag. So I'm gonna put that in here as if it was my food bag that I'm leaving for a trip, and get it situated so that it's the last thing that goes in my pack. And it also gives me the option to get to it quickly throughout the day, because obviously I'm gonna wanna eat. So with that being said, not really a perfect demonstration, but you guys get the idea of how I would put together my pack. Now, you may want to do things a little bit differently than I do them, or have better ideas than I do. Obviously, I didn't do a very good job of getting this stuff in the way I wanted it to. But that's how I'm going to start. So I'm going to put in, again, some type of a waterproof bag. Now, that could be a dry bag. That could be a trash bag. It doesn't have to be a huge ordeal. I just like that extra layer of waterproofing to go in the bottom of my pack, and my sleeping bag or quilts, my pillow, generally my clothes, all that stuff is gonna go inside that waterproof material that I've put inside this bag to keep them dry if I get in some kind of a rain, or I drop my pack in water, or whatever might happen. I've just got that extra layer of insurance to keep all that really important stuff dry, because nobody wants to get in a wet sleeping bag at night. That's the worst thing ever. Then on top of that is the main thing that I'm gonna pull out once a day with those items is gonna be my shelter. And that helps you kind of balance out the weight in your pack. So I'll have my shelter. With my hammock system, I actually keep my tarp on the outside of the bag, And that's because if it is raining, I can put that tarp up before I even open the bag. And that gives me the opportunity to get underneath of my tarp and everything stays dry while I'm unloading my bag. So that's just a little trick to having a hammock in your bag, is putting your tarp up first. Now, on the top of my bag is where I'm going to keep my ditty bag, my personal items that I'm going to use throughout the day, and my food bag. Because those are things you're going to routinely be taking in and out of your backpack during the day. Now, I do stick some stuff on the outside of this bag that I can get to throughout the day and utilize, like these hip pockets here. These hip pockets will hold quite a bit, so they're a great place to put. I usually put food in one of them, and then in the other one, I might put some like hydration. So, you know, like the Element powders or whatever that, you know, that you might want to take along as a water additive. Because your water is going to be right here on these side pouches on the bag. So it's good to have some food and some water all in there together. That way, for the quicker stops, you don't necessarily have to pull your bag off your back, which is a good thing for me because I don't really like to stop for long if I just need a drink or a snack. I'd like to keep walking. So that is how I pack my bag. And hopefully I was able to give you guys some suggestions on how you can get yourself prepared and take some measurements to start shopping for your first backpack. So with that being said, if you guys got any further questions, please leave them in the comments. And I hope you guys are enjoying these videos. If you do, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel and like the video, leave a comment, let me know what you think. And we've got a few more of these yet to go. So until next time, see ya.